Thanks, Mal. Iran's president, the second most powerful person in the Islamic Republic, has died in a helicopter crash. The debris of the helicopter, along with the bodies of Iran's foreign minister and some other officials, it was found in the mountainous area in northwest Iran near Azerbaijan. There are fears the death of Iran's hardline president could reverberate across the Middle East. Joining us now is the University of Otago's international relations expert, Robert Patman. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Professor. What does this mean for the stability of the region?
In the short term, I don't think it'll make a major regional or international impact. I think the impact will be largely domestic. When we're assessing impact, of course, it depends. The impact and the implications of what's happened to Ebrahim Raisi, the Iranian president, will depend on a clear diagnosis of why the helicopter came down. If there's any concern about domestic or even international foul play, then that's likely to have quite severe repercussions. But at the moment, we must keep in mind that President Raisi was number 2 in the regime. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is number 1. And so the strategic contours, Iran's policy in the Middle East and indeed globally with respect to its support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine is likely to remain unchanged.
And given the relative secrecy of Iran and the reports that have come out of it, can we trust the reports that this was an accident, the helicopter was flying in fog, and that it was an accident?
Well, it's very difficult to discern. I think there's little doubt. Every independent source seems to suggest the weather was bad. We know the helicopter was about 43 years of age in 1979. So it seems that it was an aging helicopter. It was flying in very difficult conditions. So, before we get too conspiratorial, it may be a simple accident. But there's no doubt about it. There is some scope for speculation. And particularly on the domestic front, Raisi was close to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who is 85 and is due to step down in the not too distant future. And many people saw Raisi as a successor. And that may not have been everyone's cup of tea.
I mean, I know that you say don't get conspiratorial, but the timing that this has happened, right? When Iran and Israel, they're kind of going at it. Is it?
Yes.
I mean, it's more than a coincidence. Is there a chance it could be more than a coincidence?
You can't rule it out. It's not just when you think about it. Both the foreign minister and the president of Iran. I mean, I'm baffled, Lloyd, that they were travelling in the same helicopter together when they were part of 3 helicopters. It seems a very unusual arrangement to me, and not a particularly security conscious one. But yes, and also Raisi had a lot of not only I think he had some domestic enemies, but he also had some international enemies. It's no secret that Israel sees Iran as its major adversary in the region. And Israel has formidable resources at its disposal.
So the domestic enemies, could it be an inside job?
Well, you can't rule it out at this stage because there's no evidence, concrete evidence suggests that. But in sort of semi-authoritarian regimes, people do not advertise their ambitions in advance. We know that the interim president, the vice president, Mohammed Mokbar, he's now in the hot seat, so to speak, during the 5 days of mourning, is expected to succeed President Raisi. So there seems to be a constitutional succession there. But I think there will be some, will be some jockeying for position within Iran. Iran's a society, while it's become quite successful in its foreign policy, it's got real domestic problems. It had Raisi as president faced a lot of protests and also severe economic problems because of the sanctions from the Western world. So, the economy's been really struggling. And it's no secret that some people actually celebrated in Iran yesterday Raisi's death.
Interesting stuff. Thank you very much for your time this morning. I do appreciate it. That is Professor Robert Patman, international relations expert from the University of Otago.